everyone, welcome to our channel Knowledge of Friends. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for the latest update. आज हम वेब टेक्नोलॉजी की क्लास करने वाले हैं. वेब टेक्नोलॉजी की 11th क्लास है. ऑलरेडी हम 10 क्लासेस कंप्लीट कर चुके हैं. First of all, it's a huge request to all the subscribers and all the viewers who had not subscribed to our channel. Please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe to our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once. And even though you can also enjoy the video as well. If I'm talking about with web technology, so this is unit 1 we had covered up, and after that we had covered up the unit 2 as well. In the unit 2 we had divided into 3, that is the first we had covered up the HTML part, then CSS and then XML, and now we are going to study about unit 3, that is the scripting and networking. स्क्रिप्टिंग एंड नेटवर्किंग में हमने इसको भी 2 पार्ट्स में डिवाइड किया है, जो कि पार्ट 1 है आपका स्क्रिप्टिंग और पार्ट 2 जो है वो आपका दैट इज़ योर नेटवर्किंग है. सो पार्ट 1 स्क्रिप्टिंग हम ऑलरेडी लास्ट क्लास तक कंप्लीट कर चुके हैं. थोड़ा बहुत इंट्रोडक्शन भी हमने नेटवर्किंग के बिहाफ पे कर लिया है. नाउ विल गोना डीप हियर एज नेटवर्किंग की केस की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो नेटवर्किंग में हमने इंटरनेट दैट एड्रेसिंग हमने डिस्कस कर लिया था. उससे रिलेटेड हमने जो उसके फॉर्मेट्स, रेंज और पर्पसेस हैं वो भी डिस्कस कर लिया था. एंड now we'll discuss what are the different networking classes and interfaces that we will discuss here. And first of all, a huge request to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button and please support us and please like, share and subscribe our channel. Now we'll go on ahead here, that is what are the different networking classes. So here different networking classes and interfaces. So that what we'll discuss here. And first of all, it's that as I told you about that we had covered up the internet addressing and networking and a whole scripting part. This is a part 1 here, that what we had discussed here. So this is what we are going to discuss here, different networking classes and interface. So the java.net package is for providing the useful classes and the interfaces for the networking application, and which are used in the socket and URL that are so given here that we are dealing with. So the name and the descriptions here, name and description. So name I will be telling you, and description you will just write it down. I will be explaining you that again the regard of it. So in the case of the name, if I'm talking about the first name is your content handler. Content handler that it is. And in the content handler, the description is this class is a super class of all the classes and that reads the data from a class URL connection, and it also builds the appropriate local object based on the MIME type. And the second the name we have is your Datagram socket. Datagram socket. In the Datagram socket, this class represents the Datagram socket, that is UDP socket. Okay, and now we will go ahead with another one. You have to just write all the descriptions here so that you will get it out in an easy way, and you will be able to write it down while you are making notes here as well. And the third we have is a Datagram packet. The first is your that is content handler, second is Datagram socket, third is Datagram packet. So in the Datagram packet, this class represents the Datagram packet, that's UDP packet for containing the data. Now the fourth we will discuss is Init Address. Init Address, and thus the class represents the IP addresses. And the next one, fifth one we have is your Init socket address. So Init socket addresses here. The IP socket addresses is the combinations of IP addresses and a port number. To implement such IP socket address, this class is used. Then next we have is the sixth one, that is server socket. In the server socket here, that is for implementing the several side socket, this class is useful. And now we'll have a socket. This is the seventh one. In the socket, for implementing the client-side socket, this class is useful for that. Now we will discuss the another one, that is the eighth type, that is socket address. In the socket address, this class helps to represent the socket address without specification of protocol. Now the next we will discuss the ninth one here, that is the ninth we will be having as your, after that socket address we have URL. In the URL, this class is for creating a references of uniform resource locator which points to www, that is World Wide Web. The next is always the URI. This class provides the object uniform resource identifier. Next we have, I just write it down, uniform resource identifier, and this is URL is uniform resource locator. Now for URI, after that a URL connection. This is 10th and this is 11th. URL connection, that for establishing a communication between the application program and the URL, this class is used. Then now we'll go ahead with another one, that is the interfaces. In the term of interfaces, now we'll discuss the name, description and some method, and in the regard of it we will go ahead with name, the description and a some method. So here we'll discuss that. For the name we have as content handler factory, content handler factory. The description is that the interface is for defining the factory for the content handler, that we can write it down for the reference to the content handler factory, and so some method that is create content handler string mime, and that create the content handler. So just I write it down, create content handler, that is a string mime type that creates content handler. Now for the next one we will have another one, that is your socket, that is IMPL factory, socket IMPL factory. With this the description we have is that the interface is for defining the factory for implementing the socket, and for the some method that is used is, that is create socket IMPL. I will just write it down for that as well, create socket IMPL, that creates a new instance for the implementing the socket here. The next one we will have another one, that is URL stream handler factory, URL stream handler factory. So in that the description is for implementing a URL stream protocol handler, and the factory can be defined by the interfaces. And for the sum method, that is we will be writing a create URL stream handler string p. This is for a specific protocol p, and a new URL stream handler instance that can be created by this method. So that has been used. So there are the three interfaces that we are talking about, that is the content handler factory, socket IMPL factory, and the URL stream handler factory. These were the three that we have to discuss here in the reference towards it. Now we'll go ahead with the init address. What is init address, and related to that I will discuss more deep. That is also an important one, and that has been asked in your examination paper as well. And related to that, they had asked you about the suitable Java program as well, so you have to know about it while we are going through it. So yes, we'll go ahead. That is init address. So in the case of the init address here, that what are the various factory methods, and what is init address, and what are the various factory methods. Explain any one method for supporting a executable Java program that we'll discuss in this init address here. In the case of the init address is a class from java.net package and which represent the IP addresses, and it works with the either host name and the numerical IP address for corresponding host. With regard of it, init address, that class offers many useful methods for handling the IP addresses and the host name, and these are known as the factory method. And the factory method that what we have is factory method. The first is get local host. The second is get by name, and the third is get all by name. These were the three factory methods, and following program let's state the use of the get local host method, and that is Java program. We will just write it down for that. Get local host से reference लेके हम लोग लिखेंगे, and for that you will have to write it out. Import java.net. I will write it down from here only. Import java.net, then class init add one, then start a curly bracket, then public static void main, that is a string args, throws unknown host exception, then start with another curly bracket, then init address local add equals to init address dot get local host, then we'll print system dot out dot print ln local host is class local add. Now we'll move ahead here with regard of it. As you can see, you can just write it down, and even you can just copy it down, and you can even though you implement it down as well. We'll close the curly bracket. So now the output what we'll get is d.test.java line add one java and java init add one, and local host is that is your AP that 192.168.0.6. That is a program explanation when we are going through it. Like when you run the above program, you will get the IP addresses of the local machine on which you are running your program, and along with the host name. And in the above case, that app is the name by machine and on which I am running this program, and then 192.168.0.166 is my machine IP address. Note that while running this program, your machine should be in the network. If it is not in the network, that is that the standalone machine, so then you will get the output in the following manner, like that it will give you the half, or that here 127.0, that is 01, that is a reserved IP address corresponding to the host computer, which is also known as the loop back address as well, and is used whether the program needs to be access a network running on the local computer itself, and for that it will give. Okay, otherwise if it is not in the network area. Now we'll go ahead with another program, that is write a Java program to display the IP address for the corresponding host name using the get my name method. तो अभी get my name method हमें use करना है, just as I told you about the three methods, that get local host जो कि हम use कर चुके हैं, and get my name by name, and get all by name. So that what we'll do it, and for that we will have to do one program here, that is Java program to display IP address for corresponding host name using get by name method. So that's what we have to use it, and we have to write a program for that only. So yes, we'll go ahead. So here we will start with writing, that is import java.net, then after that class init add to start another one curly bracket public static void main, that is string args throws unknown host exception, then start another curly bracket init address ADDR equals to init address dot get local host then we have system dot out dot print ln, that what we have, then ADDR, that is my address, then address equals to init address dot get by name, what they had told you to use, that is vtubooks.com. Then after that system dot out print ln, then after that closing tag. So we'll close that tag as well, and in the reference towards it, that is the prior method, that what you have to use it to Java program to display the IP addresses for corresponding host, and by using the get by name method as well. Now we'll discuss another one, that is we will write a program. Here we'll get output will be given, that is java init add to, that is your app, that 192.168.168.01.16 जो भी आप सिस्टम यूज़ कर रहे होगे उसका वो, and vtubooks.com, that is 202.1.37.237 and 1.192, that is what you are using, that it represents that addresses. So now we'll do a sort of a next program, that is write a Java program to illustrate the get all by name method to getting all IP address related to the same host name, that we, as I told you, get a local host हम already कर चुके हैं, get by name हम कर चुके हैं, और get all by name हम जा रहे करने. So this is all init addresses we are using here. So for that we will write a question here, Java program to illustrate the get all by name method for getting all IP addresses related to the same host name. Now for that we'll use it. Now for that we'll write it down a program here, that is import java.net class init add 3 start another curly bracket and public static void main string args throws unknown host exception, then another bracket. This program shows the use of the method get all by name and for getting all the IP addresses related to the same host name. Okay, so you have to be very careful while you are writing it out. You have to know what you are doing it. So init address, then address, that is addr equals to init address dot get all by name, that is www.microsoft.com. then for int I equals to 0, I is less than ADR, and dot length I plus plus. Now for the another one, system dot out dot print ln, that is add or I, that is, and it close the bracket here. For that, this is what you will get. The output is that the Java init add 3, that is Microsoft.com, and then IP address Microsoft.com, then IP another IP addresses and same IP addresses, that whatever the local host is using, and whatever the IP address related to the same host name, that we will get all the IP addresses there. So now we'll go ahead with another one, and you have to write it down for a program when you are solving it out, and you have to know what you are doing as well. Now we'll discuss the TCP IP client socket. In the regard of it, TCP IP client socket, and that they can ask you about the explain the TCP IP client server communication. इस तरह से पूछ सकते हैं. So what you have to be deal with it. TCP IP client server communication. Okay, so that will deal with it. In the case here, that server is a device which has a resource and from which the services can be obtained. For example, there are the various types of the servers, such as web server, which is for storing the web pages, and there are the print server for the managing the printer services, and thus there are the database servers which are stores the database as well. The client is a device which wants to get the services from a particular server, and first of all, servers starts and get ready to receive the client or connection. The server client communication occurs in the following step. Like if I am dealing with the client, and for the server here as well. So here we'll discuss one by one. Mostly the three points we'll discuss in reference to the clients and server with regard of the TCP IP client server communication here, and in the regard of it you have to get to know what it is all about. And in the regard of it, with reference towards the clients and server, that it creates a TCP socket. Client जो होता है वो TCP socket को create करता है, and the server that creates TCP socket. And for the client initiates the communication, that is the communicate, and for the server here, that it creates another socket for listening client, that is accept the message from the client and repeatedly communicate. Okay, and for the third one here, that close the connection close, ये 3 step में करता है, and same here, close connection. So now in terms of 3 steps that can be illustrated by the following figures, like we can say that a client that creates a socket, and socket clients they can create like socket client socket equals to new socket hostname dot port. And then client initiate communication by reading the user input, like that this is string equals to user dash input, that is the user dash input dot read line, and in the according to then send it to the server, that server out dot write byte here, and then client listens the server using the client socket, and close client socket as well. For the regard of the TCP servers, if I'm talking about, so create the TCP socket, server socket, that is server socket equals to new server socket port, and wait the client connection socket that listens to it, and then reads the client's listen to it, and then after that sends reply to the client as well. This was the performances related to the client and the servers here. Now we'll deal what is socket basically, and you have to know about it, what is socket and how Java support the TCP IP. And in the regard of it, a socket is basically an endpoint of the two-way of communication link between the two programs that is running on network. And typically these programs on the server's program and the client program, the socket is OS operate controlled interface into which an application that gets sent or received messages to and fro from another application. And a socket is bound to a port number so that the TCP and UDP from the transport layer that can identify the corresponding application at the destination as well. In the regard of it, that what we can term as. And after that, if I'm talking about related to that, we have a sort of a shut program, that they are the two constructions used to create the client socket, and that we'll discuss. But before that, we will discuss a sort of a shut diagram here. This is, you can also draw that. This is a sort of program where this is an application program, and this is as well as application program. And after that application program, this is socket, and this is TCP with the stream and buffer. This is internet via internet, and this is also a socket, and this is also the TCP with stream and buffer. So now we'll discuss the two constructor that is used to create the client socket, and the method used for examining the socket that we will discuss here. And for that we'll go ahead here, that is related to the constructor and this meaning. So meaning I will be telling you, you can just write it down. For the related to the constructor, we'll go ahead. कंस्ट्रक्टर क्या है? पहला कंस्ट्रक्टर है आपका सॉकेट स्ट्रिंग होस्ट नेम comma and port. So with this, that creates a socket connecting to the local host, to the named host and port. The another one we have here is, that is socket Init address, IP address, and port. In this, that creates a socket using a pre-existing init address objects and a port here. You can just write it down. This was the two constructor. Now we'll go ahead to discuss the method used for examining the sockets here. So in that regard of it, that we are going to discuss about the methods that is used for examining the socket. We have the first we have is the method init address get init address. This will discuss that it returns the init address associated with the socket object. And the second we have is and get port, that it returns the remote port to which the socket object is connected. The third we have and get local port, that returns the local port to which the socket object is connected. So this is what we are going to discuss here. Now we'll discuss about the URL. URL का फुल फॉर्म क्या होता है, कोई बताएगा कमेंट सेक्शन पे. दैट इज यूनिफॉर्म रिसोर्स locator. The uniform resource locator that is for identifying the document on the internet the uniform or a universal resource locator, that is URL, is used here. And for the regard of it, the general format of URL is that scheme address, that is your protocol, then username, @ host name, then path, then file name. This is an exact and actual URL. how to identify, अगर आपको देखना है कि जो आपके पास URL है या जिस URL पे आप विजिट कर रहे हो क्या वो एक्चुअल है कि नहीं, you can just gone through with that. the protocol का नाम होगा, then slash as username, @host name होगा, फिर वो किस पाथ से है, and file name होगा. So this is how you can use how you can see that the URL is what you are going through with. The scheme specifies that the communication protocol, different schemes have a different forms of addresses as well. Various schemes that are used at are HTTP, FTP, Grapper, File, Malto, and News, and so on. And the most commonly used protocol for the web browser and a web server communication is HTTP. HTTP का full form मैंने आपको already पहले भी बता दिया है. HTTP का full form होता है Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and that is using the HTTP, the address part of the URL can be written as follows, like slash domain name path to document. And the file is another most commonly used. The scheme is URL, and this protocol allows to recite the document in the client machine from which the web browser is making out the demand, and using the file the address part of the URL that can be written in the form of like if you're using the file /path to document. And here the host name is the name of the server, that computer that stores a web document, and the default port number for the HTTP protocol is 80. And any URL does not allow a spaces in it, but there are some special character that can be present in the URL, and this character was ampersand. Either it is ampersand or a percentage, these could be the sign, but other than that the space is not allowed in any of the URL. And now we'll discuss what is URL path, क्योंकि मैंने यहाँ पे देखो यहाँ पे URL path basically यूज़ किया है. तो URL path क्या होता है? URL path, the path to the web document is similar to the path to the particular file present in the folder, and in this path the directory names in the files that are separated by the separator character, and the character that is used to the separator is slash. And a Unix system uses the /, and whereas the Windows system makes use of the backslash. That you have to be very clear about it. यूनिक्स सिस्टम जो होता है वो आपका / यूज़ करता है, और जो विंडो आपका होता है तो वो आपका बैकस्लैश यूज़ करता है for the URL. And for that we have a URL is that is http www dot mywebsite.com / mydocs index .html. The URL path of that includes all the directories along the path to the file is called the complete path, and sometimes the base URL path is specified in a configuration file of the server. In such a case, we need not have to specify the complete path for accessing the particular file. That's such a path called the partial path as well. And for example, for that we can say that here we have that it is http www.mywebsite.com. so इस पर हमें ये बात की ज़रूरत नहीं है. And this indicates that the file mydocs index.html is specified in the configuration file as well. Now we'll explain the constructors and the method used in the URL class. So the Java URL class has a various constructor, and these constructor throws the exceptions of malformed URL exception, and the syntax to specify the URL constructor is as follows. Like when you are going through with it, then we have is URL string URL string then URL, string protocol name, string host, int port, string path. So URL, where we'll go ahead here, URL string protocol name, string host, string path. Now various methods in the URL class that are commonly used in the Java program that we are dealing with here, and as you can see here with the regard of it that there are very various that we are using here. So that is the method and the description. So method will discuss here, and the description you can just write it down. I will just explaining it out. So the first method is get protocol. So in the get protocol, this method returns the name of the protocol and which is typically used. Generally HTTP is the protocol being used. The second we have is the get port. In the get port, it returns the port number for the HTTP. The port number is 80, as I told you, for HTTP. The next is your get host. In the get host, this method returns the host name. The next is get file. In the get file, this method returns the name of the file which we want to access. So these were the four methods and their description that we had deal with it. Now we'll go ahead and we will do a sort of a program that write a Java program to obtain the name of the protocol, port number, host name, and a file name of the URL. So that we will gonna do it. Java program to obtain the name of the protocol, port number, host name, and file name of the URL. So now we'll go ahead and I will write a program. Import java.net class my URL demo, start a curly bracket, then we have public static void main, that is a string args throws. Now malform, for that we will write it down. Malformed URL exception, and then URL object equals to new. Now the URL http / technical publication .org / index.php / now for the system.out.println protocol plus opt.get protocol. Then for the another one we have system.out.println, that is port plus opt dot get port. For the next one we have system dot out dot println host plus obj dot get host close bracket. For the next we have system dot out dot println file plus obj dot get file, then closing both the bracket. So here the output will get is protocol http port is -1 and our host is technicalpublication.org and our file is that /index.php/. So that what we'll get as an output. Now we'll discuss about the URL connections, what they can ask you about it. In that, what is a URL connection? Write a Java program to display the date, content type, content length and a content of a web page as a command prompt. So with regard of it, first we'll discuss about the URL connection and in the regard of it, and after that we will be writing a program that what they had a command on it. So yes, we'll do that. So first of all, we'll discuss the URL connections. In that we will be writing a program as well what they had commanded on, and that is regarding towards it, that is Java program to display the date, content type, content length and content of a web page on command prompt. So that what we have to do. In the relation to the URL connection, the class URL connection is used for accessing the attributes to remote resources, and these attributes are exposed by the HTTP protocol. And using the open connection method of the URL class, we can examine the content, and this method is used to establish the connection with some specific website, and hence to get the contents of the web page we use the following statement, like we are going to use I'll just write it down here, that is URL connection handle connection equals to, just write it down above, handle dot open connection. So that what it will be. And the handle connection is an object of the class of the URL connection, thus that open connection method returns the object of the URL connection, and using this object we can further get the access of the desired web page. Now we'll write a program that what we have to deal with it, and that is import java.net import java dot input output import java dot util dot date, then class get web page, and start in the curly bracket we will have public static void main string RGS, that is throws exception, then after that starting the curly bracket as well. After that curly bracket we have an int ch, that is URL handle equals to new URL, that is http://www.yahoo.com. then again URL, connection handle slash dash connection equals to handle dot open connection, that it is. Then after that we will go ahead with another one here, long date info, that is int length that is date info equals to handle connection dot get date, then system dot out dot print ln date plus new date info, that is printing the current date here. Okay, now we'll go ahead the other one, that is system dot out dot print ln, that is content type as handle connection dot get content type. This is printing the content types. Now the length equals to handle connection dot get content length, then system dot out dot print ln content length plus length. This is printing the length of the contents. So here with if length equals to 0 here, after that we will start with a curly bracket, that we are going to write it down as system dot out dot print ln backslash n empty contents of web page are slash n slash, then after that input stream input dash stream equals to handle connection dot get input stream, then while ch equals to input string dot read equals to -1, then with the start with another bracket, then we have system dot out dot print ln, that is char. This is printing the web page content, and this is end of a while, and input string dot close this is end of it, end of if, else, start with another bracket, system.out.println, that is there are no contents for this site. This is end of main and this is end of class. So this is the end of the program. We had write it about the Java program to display the date, content type, content length, content of a web program, page of the command prompt. That what we had done here. Now after that we will discuss about the TCP IP server socket. TCP IP कनेक्शन कम्युनिकेशन के बारे में हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, बट TCP IP सर्वर सॉकेट क्या होता है, how to create a TCP IP server socket in Java, that what will deal some of the things that will deal it, and that the server socket class is used to create the server that listens to the client, to its client, and when the server socket is created it will register itself with the system so that the client can connect to it, and the class throw the exception, input output exception. And here with the regard of it, if I'm talking about with reference towards it, it is start of a long program that will deal in the next coming class, but the various ways by which the server socket can be created is as follows, that we'll discuss here. And that is server socket, end port, and then server socket, end port, end max queues, then server socket, end port, end max queue, end address, local address. Using the accept method, the server initiate the communication with the client, and here we will be ending up because the Java program for a client server chatting application using the TCP IP socket. This is a sort of a long program that takes up approximately 10 to 15 minutes, more than that of course, but that we'll discuss in the next coming class, and then we'll discuss about the datagram as well, and hopefully if it will not exceed it, so we will be ending up with the this unit 3 in the next coming class, that is for sure, and you will just gone through with that, and then after that we will be starting with the another class that is your with related to the another unit, that is unit 4, that we'll discuss here. So that's all, and first of all it's a huge request to all the subscriber, please, all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button, and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. Now if I'm talking about the web technology, so we had cover up the unit 1, जो पहली बार देख रहे हैं क्लास उनके लिए वेब टेक्नोलॉजीज में हमने इंट्रोडक्शन एंड द वेब डेवलपमेंट स्ट्रैटेजीज, हिस्ट्री ऑफ द वेब एंड द इंटरनेट, प्रोटोकॉल गवर्निंग द वेब, राइटिंग वेब प्रोटोकॉल कनेक्टिंग टू द इंटरनेट, एंड इंट्रोडक्शन टू द इंटरनेट सर्विसेज एंड टूल्स, इंट्रोडक्शन टू द क्लाइंट सर्वर कंप्यूटिंग, कोर जावा, इंट्रोडक्शन ऑपरेटर, डेटा टाइप, वेरिएबल, array, method and classes, inheritance, package and interfaces, exception handling, multi-threaded programming, input output Java applet, string handling, event handling, introduction to AWT and AWT controlled layout manager, that what we had discussed about it. Unit 2, that what we had discussed, that is web page designing, that is HTML, list, table, images, frames, forms, CSS, document type, definitions, XML, DTD, XML schemas, objects, model, presenting and using the XML, using XML processors, DOM and SAC, dynamic HTML. Then after that we had covered up the unit 3 that we had going to start it, and जो कि hopefully next class में हम end up कर लेंगे. Unit 3 जो कि scripting and networking है, scripting part हम complete कर चुके हैं, जिसमें JavaScript, introduction, document, form, statements, function, objects and introduction to Ajax, that we had covered up. द नेटवर्किंग पार्ट में हमने इंटरनेट एड्रेसिंग, इनिट एड्रेसेस, फैक्ट्री मेथड, इंस्टेंस मेथड, टीसीपी आईपी, क्लाइंट सॉकेट, हम यूआरएल कनेक्शन डिस्कस कर चुके हैं। टीसीपी आईपी सर्वर सॉकेट हमने स्टार्ट किया है एंड वी आर नॉट एंडेड इट एंड दैट वी हैव टू एंड इट इन द नेक्स्ट कमिंग क्लास एंड द डेटाग्राम। उसके बाद फिर वी विल एंड अप विद यूनिट 3 एज वेल and now in the next coming unit, that is unit 4, that what we have to discuss here, that is enterprise Java bean property, that is preparing a class to be a Java bean, creating a Java bean properties, types of beans, stateful sessions beans, stateless sessions beans, entity beans, that what we have to cover up. And in the Java database connectivity, JDBC, merging the data from the multiple tables, that is joining the manipulating database with the JDBC and prepared statements, transaction processing and a stored procedure, that what we have to cover up. And then after that we have to cover up the unit 5, that is the last unit of this web technology. In the unit 5, the servlets and the Java server page, that what we have to cover up. In the servlets, that servlets overview and the architecture, interface, servlets and the servlet life cycle, handling HTTP GET requests, handling HTTP port requests, redirecting the request to the other resources, session tracking, cookies, session tracking with the HTTP session, that what we have to discuss in the servlets part. And the Java server page, that what we have to discuss is your introduction, Java server page overview, first Java server page example, and first the implicit object scripting, standard actions, directories, custom tag libraries. That's what we have to end up with. First of all, it's a huge request to all the subscriber, please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. Thanks for subscribing us, that's those who had subscribed us. And first of all, other than that web technology, we are dealing with the classes, that is your reasoning, जिसमें हमने verbal reasoning already complete कर लिया है, जो कि general mental ability और logic reasoning का part है, वो हम पूरा कर चुके हैं complete. और नॉन वर्बल रीजनिंग में हमने सीरीज पार्ट स्टार्ट कर दिया है, जिसमें मोर देन 1000 क्वेश्चन स्टार्ट करेंगे. एंड होपफुली अगर आपने हमारा वो चैनल नहीं देखा है तो आप प्लीज़ जाके प्लेलिस्ट से देख सकते हो, वहाँ पे आपको रीजनिंग की क्लासेस भी मिलेंगी. जैसे हमने साइबर सिक्योरिटी भी कंप्लीट कर लिया है, वो वहाँ पे वो भी क्लासेस मिलेंगी. उसके साथ साथ इंडस्ट्रियल मैनेजमेंट भी हमने शायद कर लिया है, तो वो भी आपको वहाँ मिलेगी. वेब टेक्नोलॉजीज जो कि हम कर रहे हैं वो भी आपको मिलेगा वहाँ पे. एंड DBMS भी हमने किया है, तो वो भी आपको वहाँ मिलेगा. बहुत सारे सब्जेक्ट्स हमने किया है, आप प्लेलिस्ट से जाके देख सकते हो. आप वहाँ पे आपको सारी वीडियोस, सारे लेक्चर्स आपको मिल जाएंगे. थैंक यू, थैंक्स फॉर सब्सक्राइबिंग अस.